Hello, everyone. Hello, it's Mr. Shiel here. Welcome to history again. We're going back to Persia and Greece, going back to learn a little bit more about these great ancient civilizations. And today's lesson, lesson 5, is all about Greek language and a very, very famous story. And you can see the sort of an illustration of that story on the front of your flip chart here. It says the Iliad. Iliad. We'll come to the Iliad in a little minute. But before we do that, let's do some revision. Now, on the board in front of you, you've got 3 words on the left-hand side: shrine, acropolis, and polis. Now, I'm going to read you out the different meanings and you decide how those words match up. You haven't got a sheet to do this on today. We're going to do it in your heads, discuss it with, if there's anyone around you to discuss it with, or just talk to yourself. That's fine. I do it all the time. So let's have a look. Shrine, acropolis, polis. 3 words to match. Here are the meanings. This is a Greek word which means city-state. Which one of those is it? This is a special place where people can worship or make offerings to the gods. This was the highest point or the highest place in any city-state. And people would often build temples at this point if they lived in a Greek city-state at the very highest point of their city-state. Okay, so how does that match up with those 3 words? Shrine, acropolis, and polis. Give you a little second to think about it. Little second. I think you got it. All right, let's see how you did. Let's match them up. All right, let's have a look. A shrine. Hello, Odin. Get out of here, you. Mwah. My lovely cat there. A shrine is a special place where people can worship or make offerings to their gods. An acropolis is the highest place in any city-state. People would often build temples at the top of their city-state, the acropolis. And a polis is a Greek word which means city-state, a polis. Athens was a polis, Sparta was a polis, Corinth or Delphi, they were polises too. Okay, let's try and do a little bit more revision here with some true or false statements. Have a think. I'll read them out to you and you can tell me whether they're true or false. True or false? True or false? Let's see. True or false? Darius was known as the Great and founded the Persian Empire. True or false? The Cyrus cylinder, remember that? The Cyrus cylinder was written in hieroglyphics. Was it? I don't know, you tell me. The satraps of the 20 satrapies were basically the governors, the eyes and ears of the Emperor Darius. Athens and Sparta both had kings. And Athena was the goddess of war and wisdom. True or false? Have a little read through, make a decision, discuss with someone if someone's around, or just talk to yourself again. It's okay. All right, have a think. When you're ready, we'll look at the answers. You ready? Here we go. Darius was known as the King of Kings, not the Great, not the Great. He didn't found the Persian Empire. This was Cyrus. So that statement is false. Cyrus the Great founded the Persian Empire. And after defeating Babylon, he sent out the Cyrus cylinder, that huge tablet made of clay. And on it was a message written about how great Cyrus was. The Cyrus cylinder was all about how wonderful Cyrus was. It was written in cuneiform. Cuneiform, great word. And cuneiform was kind of made with a stylus or a stick pressed into wet clay. And cuneiform, so there's that word again, cuneiform, I enjoy saying it, cuneiform was the first written language ever discovered. All right, the satraps and the 20 satrapies, those governors of the satrapies, were basically the eyes and ears of the Emperor Darius. True, true. They looked out for trouble. They collected taxes, and all that money was funneled through to Darius, the emperor. Athens and Sparta both had kings. False. It was just Sparta. Sparta had kings, and Athens was experimenting with a democracy where all the laws and rules were agreed by free men in Athens, not slaves, free men. And not women either, still a very sexist place, Athens in ancient Greece. Women weren't allowed to have a say in laws, which is totally unfair. But that was how the ancient world was. Athena was the goddess of war and wisdom. True, absolutely true. And the city-state of Athens, the polis of Athens, had a special place in their hearts for Athena. They had lots of temples and lots of symbols of Athena, which of course was the animal, the owl of wisdom. Okay. Hope you did all right with those questions. Let's move on with our lesson. Let's move on with our new learning, new knowledge going in our brains today. That's exciting, isn't it? Right, the alphabet. Let's talk about this alphabet. Now, I'm sure you know the first letter in the alphabet. It's the letter A. You know that. It's the first letter in the word apple, for example. The second letter in the alphabet is B for banana. Now, the ancient Greeks also had a letter A, but they didn't call it A. They called it alpha. Okay, alpha. The first letter of the Greek alphabet, alpha. The second letter in the Greek alphabet, beta, beta, beta. That's better. No, wait, hold on. I'm confusing myself. It's better when I say beta. It's worse when I say beta. Okay. That got me all mixed up. So the first letter in the Greek alphabet, alpha. The second letter in the Greek alphabet, beta. Alpha, beta. The word alphabet comes from those first two letters in the Greek language. Isn't that an interesting fact? So the next time, you're on a Zoom call or a FaceTime, or, goodness knows, you might be meeting somebody outside in the real world, in a real meeting, you can tell them this interesting fact. You can say, did you know where we get the word alphabet from? And that person might say, no, I don't know. I don't know. If only I knew. If only there was somebody out there who could tell me. And you can be like, aha, that person is me. And you can tell them all about ancient Greek language and the alpha and beta and how we get the word alphabet from those two letters. Isn't that interesting? Right, moving on. Here is a visual image of the Greek alphabet. And you can see that some letters are completely the same. A is the same. Are there any other same? B is pretty similar. Alpha and beta. But then if you have a look through the alphabet, you can see some differences, some big differences in how we would write it today and how it would be written in Greek. And if you want, if you've got a piece of paper and a pen right now, you can pause the video, have a go at writing your name, have a go at writing someone in your family's name. If you've got a pet, write your pet's name. Okay? Have a go at writing some names in ancient Greek. You can pause now. Otherwise, we'll move on. Now, obviously, the ancient Greeks had language. They had stories, and they love stories. They love stories. Some of their stories were about real people. Some of their stories were about gods. Some of them were about heroes and monsters. And one Greek storyteller who was very famous was called Homer. Homer, not Homer Simpson. Don't get him confused with the yellow lad off The Simpsons. But maybe he was named after Homer, the ancient Greek storyteller. Okay. Homer wrote loads of exciting stories. And one of the most famous is called the Iliad. Iliad. The Iliad. And it's one of Homer's most famous stories. And we're going to talk about the Iliad today. We're going to learn a little bit about this famous story, learn some of the main events from the Iliad. Okay, we'll talk it through now. So back then, they weren't called stories. They were called epics a lot of the time. And an epic, nowadays we call something epic when it's brilliant or amazing. You're like, oh man, that was epic. Something like that. You might say that. Oh, wow, that was totally epic. You might know. I don't. It felt weird to say it. Anyway, back then, an epic was a name for a really, 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 really long story, or a really, 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 really long poem. They were called epics. And one of the most famous epics was called the Iliad by Homer. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you a bit of the story now of the Iliad, and then we'll stop, we'll recap, we'll move on, and then at the end of this session we're going to do some drawing. Okay, so A long time ago, in fact, a very long time ago, there was a city across the sea. The city was called Troy. The Greeks called the city Ilium. Troy and the other Greek city-states were good friends. But then times changed. There was a prince from Troy with the name Paris, and he fell in love. The woman Paris loved was the most beautiful woman in the entire world, and she was called Helen. Helen was married already to a Greek king, and so the Greeks went to war against Troy. The city of Troy was protected by a high wall. It was a very thick wall, and it was impossible to break down. There were gates to let the Trojan people in and out of Troy. The high wall gave the Trojan soldiers safety to stand and shoot their arrows down onto the Greek soldiers below. And here on the image of the flip chart, you can see what an artist thinks the walls of Troy might have looked like. We don't really know because they're not there anymore, and no one had a working camera when they were there because cameras didn't exist. Okay. It was impossible for those Greek soldiers to break into Troy. One of the best Greek soldiers ever was called Achilles. Achilles. But the Greek commander of the army, he got fed up and he argued with Achilles. He quarreled with him, which is a fancy word for saying argument. So Achilles said he wasn't going to help those Greeks anymore. I'm done with you. The Greeks were angry with Achilles because they'd lost their best soldier. And for 10 long years, the Greeks tried to besiege the walls of Troy. Besiege means fight, take over, ruin. But the walls of Troy remained as strong as ever. The Trojans stayed safe in their city. And some Greeks blamed Achilles for their failure, thinking, well, he's not really helped us. He's left the army. He's meant to be our best #1 soldier. And we're a bit cross with him. Not that we tell him to his face. Now, let's just recap the story so far. You might remember Troy, as it was known back then. There was a man from Troy called Paris. He fell in love with Helen, but Helen was already married to a powerful Greek king. Helen escaped to live in Troy with Paris. That didn't go down well. And Menelaus, who was the king sent his army to destroy Troy. But Troy, turns out, it's quite hard to destroy Troy. It's got these really high walls and lots of soldiers to protect it for 10 years. Achilles, the best warrior from Greece, argues with the leader of the Greek army. He says he's not going to help anymore. I'm not going to help you anymore. You've annoyed me. Now, Achilles' best friend, after 10 years, Achilles' best friend was a young man called Patroclus. And Patroclus was also a soldier in the Greek army. He wanted to borrow Achilles' armor because he thought, maybe if I wear his helmet, maybe if I wear his armor, it will bring me luck. So Patroclus borrowed it. Achilles said yes, and he gave his distinctive helmet to Patroclus. Well, when the Trojan soldiers saw Patroclus coming towards their walls, they thought it was Achilles. A brave Trojan prince called Hector walked outside the city walls with his sword to fight Achilles, to fight the best soldier the Greeks ever had. And he won. When Hector killed Achilles, the Trojans cheered. They were so happy. But it wasn't Achilles. When he took off the helmet from the Greek soldier's face, the Trojans watched from their walls. It was Patroclus, Achilles' best friend. When Achilles heard the news, he flew into a rage, rejoined the fight, and he killed Hector. He killed Hector and he dragged his body around and around the walls of Troy so that Hector's family had to watch, and they were horrified and grief-stricken. But still Troy held on. For 10 years, the Greeks had tried to defeat Troy. And even the defeat of Hector by Achilles, even Achilles rejoining the army, couldn't get them to defeat Troy and get Helen back. One Greek soldier called Odysseus had a plan, a cunning plan. The plan was to build a wooden horse and leave it outside the walls. And the Greeks would pretend to go back to their ships and sail home. The Trojans would think the Greeks had given up and left the horse, this huge wooden horse, as a kind of present, like a sorry about that, it's about the wars. Here, have a horse, have a big wooden horse. But that wasn't what they were planning, because that wooden horse would be hollow, and inside 30 Greek soldiers would be hiding. And as the Greek soldiers sailed away, the people of Troy cheered from their strong walls, and they found the wooden horse and they dragged it inside the city gate, thinking, oh, what a lovely present. The Trojans closed the gate behind them. But that night, while the Trojans were sleeping, the Greek soldiers quietly climbed out the horse. They opened the city gate, and the Greek army hadn't sailed away. Oh no, they'd quietly crept back to Troy. They marched into the city with the doors open and defeated all of Troy. And that was how Troy was defeated in the epic poem, The Iliad by Homer. Now, today's lesson, today's activity is all about creating a comic book. And I've picked out 10 key moments from the Iliad story that we've just listened to. And what I'd like you to do is create an image for each of those 10 moments. For example, it might be Hector being killed by Achilles, Odysseus having a great idea, the wooden horse being dragged into the city of Troy, or it might just be Achilles and the Greek commander having a bit of an argument. But there's 10 things to do there, okay? So on your sheet, draw an image for each major moment from the Iliad epic poem by Homer. All right, I can't wait to see them. Upload them to Google Classroom when you're done, and then we'll have a look at all those great moments from the Iliad. In the meantime, it's goodbye from Mr. Shill. I'll see you soon. We'll have another history lesson this week, I think, and then we'll move on to another topic. All right, guys, take care. All the best. Bye-bye.